So we're gonna do a 3 on top, down to a half on the sides.
Yeah.
Keep the middle of the beard longer and then blend it all in, clean up the lines.
Yep.
Typically, whenever it's a clipper cut, I start with the top, right? Because whenever you start on the sides and then you cut the top again, there's always this ring that you have to re-blend. And that also goes for scissor cuts too. So I've been trying to break the habit, but it's hard because I've been doing it for so long now, but it almost always makes sense to start with the top. I'm gonna start with the 3. And even though this clipper is probably moving at, I don't know, we'll say 6,000 strokes per minute, it is not gonna catch all the hair. So that was just kind of my rough pass, right? And now I'm going at a diagonal to kind of pick up those hairs. So we did it this way, and now I'm cutting diagonally to kind of pick up those hairs that we missed on the first pass. All right, so I'm gonna take my comb, I'm gonna put it right in front of the guard, and I'm gonna use that to lift up those hairs that we didn't catch the first time. All right, so now we're gonna do a half on the sides. We're gonna create our guideline using the clipper lever all the way open. And then we're just gonna go to about right here. And that'll be our first guide on the side. I would say this is in between low and medium. Because low, I would probably keep it right at the top of the ear, maybe a little higher. Medium would be right at this peak. So this is kind of in between. So I'll call this somewhere between low and medium. So I'm making sure it's even by turning him to the side so that I can see the reflection of this side in the mirror and I can see this side at the same time. And you can also do that by checking with your fingers to make sure the spacing is equal on both sides. But this is the most important part of the haircut, because if this part is off, then the whole haircut will be off. So this is like the foundation, and then we're gonna build on top of this. And I have a brush in my hand, just because typically if I'm working with I would say a 1.5 or lower, I have a brush. If it's a 2 or higher, I usually have a comb. So you'll see me switch back and forth because when the hair is this short, I'm really trying to like clean it off more than like brush it into place. But when it gets longer, the brush becomes ineffective. So that's when I switch to the comb. This is my 1, and I'm gonna open it up so it's fully open. So it's closer to a 1.5, and I'm gonna use that to make my next guide. One of the main differences that I noticed in myself and when I'm training newer barbers is that I think sometimes they're just afraid to use pressure when they're cutting hair. So sometimes you're using the right guard, but you don't see anything happening. And sometimes it just means you need to push down harder, you know? Sometimes you do need a new guard. Maybe you're using the wrong guard. But sometimes you just need to push down a little harder to get that hair to lift up so that the clipper can actually cut it. Okay, so this was my 1 open right here. This was the first guide I made with the lever open, no guard, what I call a half. So to get rid of this line, we're gonna use the 1 closed, and this line should start to get a little lighter. But it's probably not gonna completely disappear. For that, we'll use a different card. Now I'm gonna use my half guard, and this should get in between the half, this half, and the 1 closed. I'm gonna start halfway open. And then we just play with it to find the right one. We're just gonna listen to hear what it's doing. So I'm using only the corners right now because if you use the full blade, then you could end up going too high and then you make a new line. If you just use the corner, if you end up going too high, then it's like, okay, no big deal, you know? But if you end up going too high with the full blade, now you have to raise the whole fade to try to erase that line. So when you're in like a detailing part of the haircut, it's just usually good practice to just use the corners. You use the full blade when you got a lot of work to do when you're making lines, but when you're trying to erase lines, especially when they're very faint lines, usually a good idea to just use the corner. Just a reminder, we did a 3 on top. This is a half. This is a 1 open. I'm gonna use my 2 now to create the next line. This should blend in nicely with the 3, and there's gonna be a nice line there, which I'll erase with the 1.5. Once I get past the number 2 guard, I don't usually use the lever after that, because you can usually blend pretty easily just by doing this once you get past the 2 guard, or by turning the clipper sideways like this. When I'm working with something less than a 2, I'm definitely going to be using that lever more, but beyond the 2, I don't think the lever is even necessary. You can even skip guards at a certain point. You can go from like a 4 to a 6, and it's not going to leave some like harsh line. I'm using the lever now, but it's just... So I'm switching to my 1.5 guard now, and this is going to start making this line get a lot lighter. There's probably still going to be a line there, and which we'll erase with the number 1. So I'm going to start with this with the lever fully closed. You'll notice I'm doing this like this X motion. I don't think the clipper cuts hair that well, just going directly against the grain when you're working on the sides at least. So I tend to do this like crisscross motion when I'm working on the sides. I just feel like it helps grab that hair a little bit better. All right, so back to my 1, and I'm just gonna keep playing with the lever until I find the right length to start to erase this final line here. And I still consider this like the rough draft, right? If you spend too long trying to make this perfect, then that's what really ends up stretching the haircut out. I just try to get through all the steps, and then at the very end, you know, do the detail work and try to lighten up any lines or dark spots that I see. So you want to get the haircut like 80% of the way there and save that last 20% for the very end, the detailing. So I wouldn't consider this haircut done, but I consider like it's done enough for we can move on to the beard. And then at the end, we'll detail, or I'm gonna taper his neck, do the beard, and then we'll clean everything up with the trimmers. I'm just gonna taper the neckline real quick, starting with my clipper lever all the way closed. So these clippers aren't zero gapped, but they're close. So what zero gapped means is that the moving blade has very little gap between the moving blade and the non-moving blade. This does have a little bit of gap, but they are still kind of sharp. So I just want to be mindful that I'm not digging too hard when I'm doing this neck taper. If they are zero gapped, you prefer to have your clipper zero gapped, that's totally fine. It might be best to just like open it up 1 notch if you're working with somebody who has a sensitive skin. So this is all the way closed. Making my first guide. Now remember, this is all like a half, so there's gonna be like not a lot of blending in between. And I like to stop the tapers like right around here. I don't like to go much higher than that. And then I'm gonna go just 1 more notch. Going up about a 1/4 inch. I got a lot of room to play with here, just because this is a half like up to here. I'm gonna go 1 more notch. So now I'm a little more than halfway open. And now I'm fully open. So this is a half, so my next step will be a 1. Starting open. So a 1.5 with the grain is probably the same length as like a 2 against the grain. So I did the 1.5 going down. I'm gonna use the 2 against the grain. Clipper with no guard, lever all the way open, and this is the number 1 guard, fully open. And this is my 1.5. I used a 2, so this is just a little bit shorter. This is a taper comb. So they call it taper comb because one side tapers down to thinner. So you can use this to find the right, it'd be like equivalent to using a longer guard on the clipper versus a shorter guard. So we're just gonna try to use this to get these long hairs that I can't reach with the clipper guard. And you know, it's helpful when your clients can do that. Thank you. So this protects the mustache so you don't cut it too close. So I just put some shave gel on, and I'm using this towel to help soften up that hair a little bit more, especially down here, to make that shave go a lot smoother. Alright, so I just took the towel off. I'm gonna start here, and then just work my way to the other side using my straight razor here. First thing I try to do is clear a spot so that I can stretch the skin with my thumb. And I also like to get this cheek area anyways, because hair does grow there, and some barbers forget to check that. This is actually what can cause ingrown hairs, because that's a common question that a lot of guys have. And it's usually caused by shaving in the wrong direction or using too much pressure. So if you're finding that you're getting ingrown hairs when you shave, just try to be mindful to shave with the grain and use maybe less pressure. Some people are just gonna get them no matter what, but just doing those 2 things might help.
It was like, say like tomorrow you got like really, plus you know